The Apocalypse of Abraham, a vision of the end the church hid. We all know Abraham, father of three faiths, model of righteousness, the man willing to sacrifice his own son to prove his devotion to God. His story is one of the most foundational narratives in the world, a pillar of faith for billions. But what if that story, the one we've all been told, is dangerously incomplete? What if one of the most important visions of his life just fell through the cracks of history? An ancient Jewish text, one that didn't make it into the Bible, tells a different story. It reveals Abraham's terrifying prophecy of the final days, a vision of his ascent to the heavens, his battle with a fallen angel, and a glimpse of the end so controversial it was left on the cutting room floor. This is the story of the Apocalypse of Abraham. Section 1. The familiar Abraham versus the problem. When we think of Abraham, we picture the patriarch, the righteous shepherd chosen by God to be the father of many nations. His journey is presented as a straightforward test of faith and obedience. He leaves his home, follows God's command, and is rewarded with a divine covenant. This is the sanitized hero of Sunday school, a figure of unwavering piety. But this image isn't the whole picture. The reality, preserved in a text that was pushed to the margins, is that Abraham wasn't just a faithful servant. He was a cosmic visionary. He was a man who pierced the veil of heaven and stared into the face of creation, judgment, and the abyss. The problem is, his most profound spiritual experience, a direct encounter with the divine and the demonic, was part of a story that was just too wild. It was a story of a universe not in perfect harmony, but one locked in a cosmic war. This vision was so radical, it risked shattering the simple narratives of good and evil that religious authorities were trying to solidify, and so, over time, it was mostly forgotten. Section 2. The text that didn't make the cut. The source of this story is the Apocalypse of Abraham. This isn't a modern forgery, it's an ancient Jewish apocalyptic text, likely written in the late 1st or early 2nd century CE, right after the catastrophic destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. It's a product of a time of immense crisis, when people were desperately searching for answers about God, suffering, and the end of the world. Divided into two parts, the book first details Abraham's conversion from idolatry, and then launches into a breathtaking apocalyptic vision. But this wasn't just another prophecy. It contained some explosive ideas that didn't quite fit with the theology being streamlined by early rabbis and church fathers. It describes a powerful fallen angel named Azazel, not as a distant tempter, but as a primary cosmic adversary who directly confronts Abraham. It portrays a heaven not entirely unified, but as a place of conflict where a mortal man can symbolically inherit the glory lost by angelic rebellion. The text was considered pseudepigraphal, meaning it was attributed to Abraham but not written by him, which was a common reason for excluding books from the official biblical canon. While its content was certainly challenging, this was standard procedure during the formation of the canon. The book survived, not in mainstream Hebrew or Greek manuscripts, but almost exclusively in a handful of Old Church Slavonic manuscripts. This suggests it was preserved in the margins, a fascinating relic of a story that didn't make the final cut. Section 3. The Story, Part 1. The Calling. To understand the vision, we first have to understand the man. The Apocalypse of Abraham begins not with a righteous patriarch, but with a young man trapped in a world of lies. His father, Terah, is an idol maker, and Abraham's home is filled with lifeless gods carved from wood and stone. But Abraham is a natural-born truth seeker. He questions everything. He watches as his father crafts these idols, only to see them break or fail to provide any real power. In a pivotal moment, he confronts his father, arguing that the elements, fire, water, the sun, are more powerful than these statues, yet even they are subject to a higher power. He declares his intent to find the one true God who created everything. His rejection of the family business enrages his father. But as he speaks, a voice thunders from a fiery cloud in heaven, calling his name. Abraham, Abraham! The voice warns him to flee his father's house, lest he be consumed by its sins. As Abraham escapes, a great thunder sounds, and fire descends from heaven, consuming his father's house entirely. This isn't just a story about rejecting idols. It's about Abraham's relentless pursuit of truth, a hunger so profound, it literally brings down fire from heaven. It establishes him not as a passive servant, but as an active participant in his own enlightenment, a man worthy of the insane vision that is to come. Section 4, The Story, Part 2, The Ascent and Vision. This is where the story shifts from a family drama into a celestial epic. God commands Abraham to go to Mount Horeb and prepare a sacrifice. He is terrified, but he's not alone. A glorious angel named Yahuel appears to guide him. Yahuel's appearance is stunning. A body like sapphire, hair like snow, and a turban like a rainbow, holding a golden scepter. He introduces himself as a being whose power comes from God's own ineffable name. As Abraham prepares the animal sacrifice, the vision's central conflict erupts. An unclean bird descends upon the carcasses. But this is no ordinary bird. It speaks with a human voice, trying to convince Abraham to abandon his sacred task. It is Azazel, the fallen angel, the seducer of mankind. He is the ultimate adversary, the embodiment of corruption. Yahuel rebukes Azazel, casting him away and declaring that the celestial glory, once held by the fallen angel, now symbolically belongs to Abraham. This is a powerful statement. Humanity, in its faithfulness, can inherit the glory forfeited by angelic rebellion. With the adversary banished, the true revelation begins. Yahuel commands Abraham to ascend with him upon the wings of the birds of sacrifice. Abraham is lifted into the heavens. There, he sees a vision that spans all of creation. He witnesses the divine throne, the angelic hosts, and even the primordial creation of the world. He sees the Garden of Eden, but he also sees the fall of man in a new light. Adam and Eve are depicted as giant figures, beguiled by Azazel into eating from a forbidden vine. The vision darkens. Abraham is shown the future of his own descendants, and it is filled with horror. He sees his people committing idolatry, the very sin he rejected, which leads to the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. The vision becomes a prophecy of the end times, with the world divided into 12 periods of ungodliness. He sees humanity divided into two sides, the faithful on the right and the idolaters and the damned on the left. He is shown a terrifying figure of death and is told of a coming judgment where the wicked will rot in the belly of the crafty worm Azazel and be burned by the fire of Azazel's tongue. This is a universe far more complex and terrifying than the one taught in most Sunday schools. It's a vision of a cosmic war with humanity at its center. If you find this piece of hidden history as captivating as I do, take a moment to subscribe and click the bell. We're just getting started on uncovering the stories that didn't make it into the official narrative. Section 5. The why. So why was it left out? So after all that, why didn't this book make it into the Bible? Why was a text that so vividly portrays the struggle between good and evil and the ultimate triumph of God left on the sidelines? The first reason is basically religious housekeeping. The Apocalypse of Abraham is pseudepigraphal, written in Abraham's name long after his death. Early church fathers and rabbinic authorities were working to create a stable, authoritative canon of Scripture, and books with uncertain or non-apostolic authorship were among the first to be excluded. This was a common practice for maintaining doctrinal clarity. But the content of the Apocalypse was also a factor. Mainstream theology in both emerging Christianity and rabbinic Judaism was working to present a clear, unified message. God is all-powerful, heaven is perfect, and evil is a rebellion against that perfection. The Apocalypse of Abraham presents a messier reality. Its depiction of Azazel isn't just a tempter, but a powerful angelic being with his own domain, whose power is a significant part of the cosmic order. This kind of dualism, where evil has such a prominent standing, may have been seen as uncomfortably close to Gnostic or other ideas that were being rejected. Plus, the vision challenged the simplicity of the religious narrative. It suggested a mortal man, Abraham, could ascend to heaven and symbolically inherit the place of a fallen angel, blurring the lines between human and divine. Its raw apocalyptic imagery and its specific prophecy about the temple's destruction were part of a whole genre of literature that authorities often sought to control in favor of more theological and legally focused works. Ultimately, the Apocalypse of Abraham was a casualty of the long and complicated process of forming an official canon. It offered a vision that was perhaps too complex, its villain too powerful, and its cosmology too unsettling for the streamlined narratives that institutions often rely on. It was easier to leave it out than to explain it. Conclusion: the legacy of a sidelined vision. So, the story of Abraham is more than just a faithful shepherd. It's also the story of a cosmic visionary who rejected the false gods of his time, ascended to the heavens, and faced down a fallen angel. He stared into the abyss and witnessed a terrifying prophecy of the end of days, a vision so potent it was left to survive on the fringes of history. The Apocalypse of Abraham reveals a deeper truth about faith, that it's not always a peaceful walk with God, but sometimes a fierce struggle on a cosmic scale. It connects to our own anxieties about good versus evil, our fascination with what lies beyond the veil, and the eternal question of what the end will look like. The text survived because its themes are universal. It speaks to the feeling that the official story isn't always the whole story, and that profound truths might be waiting in the very texts that were left behind. It forces us to reconsider one of history's most important figures and asks a final, lingering question: what other truths might be hidden in the stories we were never told? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And for more journeys into forbidden lore, don't forget to like and subscribe.